Yes. We are back. It is Sunday. That means it's the Leafs weekender. There's no Leafs hockey, so we can't talk about that or what the week will be. But we can talk about what is going on in Leafland, talk about the Sens, talk about everything happening around all the little newsy bits that there are. And when it comes to newsy bits, there's no two better guys to talk to about it than my co-hosts, Pete the Heat and Clark, producer Cork Monroe. What's happening?
How you doing?
Living the absolute dream, Clark. How's it shaking out over there? Look at him. He's already being an insider. He's on his phone.
I'm sharing the episode. I'm getting it out there. I'm spreading the word. No, it was good. We talked last episode about it being pretty smoky here from in Saskatchewan from the forest fires and stuff. It's cleared up over the last couple of days, so that's always nice. And it's a great day today. And got to spend some time outside. Started a new book, so like things are doing pretty good right now.
What you reading, Clark?
Yeah.
So Doug McLean. I don't have it in this room. It's in the other room. But Doug McLean, as you guys remember from Sportsnet, and he was the general manager of the Columbus Blue Jackets, just put out a book. I don't even know if it's fully out yet. I got an advanced copy. But it's called Draft Day, How NHL Teams Build Their Teams and Build Successful Teams or something along those lines. So I'm about 5 or 6 chapters in. It's really interesting so far. And I know that the bulk of what you're trying to read that book for about like behind the scenes draft stuff is the second half of the book. So I'm just getting through all the history stuff and some interesting stories from his days with the Red Wings when Yzerman was there. He was an assistant coach with the Red Wings in the late 90s, I think, early 2000s. And so he's just getting into his Columbus era now in terms of the draft. So far it's an interesting read. A lot of name dropping. But I mean, it is what it is. It's good stories. It's cool. An interesting book so far.
Yeah, no, he was great. I had him on probably when I first started this show. He's one of the first bigger names that came on, and absolutely great with the stories, but definitely has a lot of name dropping when he's going through what he's talking about, which he knows everybody.
He knows everybody. That's how do you not when you have all these stories and you're like he was the one that he tells you about it in the book several times. He was the one that traded Chris Draper for $1 back in the day. That was him. With the Red Wings, he got Chris Draper for $1 from the Jets. So like that's in the book a few times. He mentions it a few times, and you know he's name dropping all these people who he's worked with and hired over the years. And no, it's great though. I'm really looking forward to the second half of the book where he goes a little bit more behind the scenes.
I heard a little bit of a story too that he drafted Rick Nash, some guy, you know.
Yeah, you heard about that?
Never heard of him.
And Nikolai Zherdev was the other one that he talks about early on in the book. So we'll see about that one too.
Wow.
Well, listen, there's a lot of talking, actually. Speaking of Doug McLean, who loves to talk and tell stories, it seems Sens fans right now love to be talking and telling big stories about what their team is about to do this season and stacking themselves up to the Maple Leafs. Now, I'm not putting down the Senators by any mean. And John, if you're listening, which I know you will be once I mention the Senators' name in the post, you'll be all over this. We'll see you soon, I'm sure, this month coming on the show. But it's one thing to be excited about your squad. It's another to take what you have and then try to bash down a team. I wouldn't say light years in front of you, but probably a couple galaxies in front of you when it comes to terms of actual on-ice progress. Because the Sens have supposedly supposed to be done their rebuild 6 times over now. Last year was the big hurrah. The year before that was where the pesky Sens were getting in. And it just doesn't seem to be happening. And listen, great that you locked up Sanderson. Good job. He's got, 47 points or something like that or whatever over his term. And I know what you did it for. Okay, it's called table setting, and you've done it the right way. You're paying for a guy before he becomes the guy. Hey, the Colorado Avalanche beat you to that punch a long time ago with a young man named Nathan McKinnon. They did the same thing. They paid him, and everybody was like, why are you paying this guy 6 point whatever million? He hasn't done anything. By the end of that contract, he had done a whole hell of a lot. So they're banking on some of these young guys producing and becoming superstars and signing them to these deals. Great. You set yourself up great. You've paid before they are who they are. But they still have to become what they need to become on the ice to be able to get you where you need to be, and that they have not done yet, my friend.
James, do you have the Sens making the playoffs this year?
No.
No, I think they do. I think they have a good team.
You're banking your entire thing on Jonas Corposalo and a double blowout of the knees, Forsberg.
I mean, I think they have a good enough squad to get in. I think they'll do it this year. But shut your mouth, Sens fans, because at least
listen, it's not even shut your mouth. Be excited for what you have. I'm damn excited for the Sens fans. They have a lot. Yes, they definitely do. It's great you brought in Tarasenko. It's great you have Dominik Kubalik to add a little bit more offense. And, it's fun to hear Debrincat being upset because he didn't get to usurp Chucky on the first line. Excuse me, sir. You're not as good as Mr. Chuck. Just putting that out there. And Timmy Stu is awesome. Absolutely awesome. Taking steps every year. Yes, 100% Sens fans. But it all has to come together. The offense, the defense, and the goaltending. And that has not happened for the Ottawa Senators. And I don't care. You're banking it on Jonas Corposalo and Anton Forsberg. I believe it's Anton Forsberg. I might be wrong. And he just blew out both his knees at the end of last season. So I'm not super pumped unless Corposalo turns in a mammoth performance. It has to be that way. And by the way, Sens fans, no, your defense is not light years ahead of the Maple Leafs. No, Morgan Rielly would not be sitting out of your top 6. He would definitely be on your top pair. Just saying that now.
Clark, do you have the Sens making the playoffs this year?
I think in our last episode where we did the predictions, I think I put Buffalo ahead of them. Or no, I put Detroit ahead of them, just for fun. But to me, I think I'm on the record as saying the top 3 teams I think are still going to be Toronto, Tampa, and one of Boston or Florida. Whichever one of those teams falls off, that next tier. 5 teams in that division. Even, you know what? I'll even say Toronto and Tampa. I still believe in the Tampa Bay Lightning. I know that there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts about them right now, but I still think they'll find a way. They just signed Tyler Mott the other day, and how much you want to bet Tyler Mott pots 25 goals? Just put it on the board now. He's going to get 25 in Tampa. But for after those 2 teams, I think there's 5 teams that I could see going anywhere from 3 to 7 in the division, and then I think Montreal, as of right now, is probably that last team. But I could even see them maybe taking a step depending on how they do in net. We'll talk about that in another episode. But I think Ottawa is right there with the Detroit, Buffalo, and Boston or Florida conversation. I think they're right there. I really do. But I think they still have a huge step to take, and I don't think I've seen that from them yet. I think they're still going to be the reason I didn't put them higher than a Detroit or a Buffalo is because I think Buffalo, and to an extent, Detroit made some offseason acquisitions that I'm just curious about how they fit in. I don't know if they're going to necessarily end up good, but I'm just curious. And I think if they fit in well, I think that Detroit team could be hard to play against, at least.
Not to mention Patty Kane on the outside, looking in on Detroit as well. So
Sure. And Buffalo, I think, took that step that Ottawa needs to take. I think they took it last year. And I'm just curious to see how Buffalo kind of continues. Do they take that next step, or are they going to just kind of neutralize themselves? We'll see. But I think Ottawa's there. The thing with Ottawa, though, that, they lose Debrincat, of course, and they did get a decent little return for him, I guess, considering how hamstrung they were with that trade. But, I mean, Kubalik is not a adequate replacement for Alex Debrincat. He's good. He's a good third liner at this point in his career, I think. Yep. But he's not an Alex Debrincat replacement. So you're looking at a top 6. I mean, they do have some exciting players. I just have their cap friendly up now. So it's I don't know exactly how their lines are going to shape up, but you got Tkachuk, you got Stützle, you got probably Tarasenko maybe,
Norris.
And then Norris is there. They got Giroux and Batherson or whoever it happens to be. So that's fun. That's fun. That's cute. But
well, here, let's look at it like this. This is the way they're probably going to line up. Okay, it's going to be first lineup
daily faceoffs.
Yeah, Tkachuk, Stützle, Tarasenko, Giroux, Norris, Batherson, and then your third lines: Ridley, Gregg, Shane Pinto, Dominik Kubalik. Last line is a line that could really maybe make some noise: Matthew Joseph, Mark Kislick, and Zach McEwen. The
They
question
got
for
Parker
me,
Kelly
though,
too, who's pitched in here and there. It's like they're good. They have great players. I like where they're at, but
they all got to gel, though.
I still think they're like 20. If we're talking comparing Leafs and Sens, I still think they're like 2017-18 Leafs right now. Like they're getting there. They're close, and they're gonna be fun. I'm not saying anything that they're gonna be bad. I think they're gonna be a really fun team to watch and be a fan of. I think Ottawa fans are gonna have a lot to cheer about and get behind this year.
Yep.
That's all good and well, but for them to sit here and say we're already better than you, just like they did last year, saying that their top six was better, I can't agree with you guys. I just can't do it.
Well, look at the Leafs top six, even going into this season, compared to what we just said about the Sens. Even if you line it up like this, just go Matthew Nyes, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, then second line of Bertuzzi, Tavares, Nylander. That already, to me, screams better. And then a third line of Domi, Yarncroke, Robertson. And
it's like, okay, Kachuk's better than Nyes. Sure. You have a former MVP and you have a perennial 100-point guy on that line as well. Okay. Maybe Giroux is – maybe some people like Giroux better than Tavares. I'm not saying that's my argument. I'm just saying they compare the two of those guys. Sure. But, like, Nylander's better than Batherson. Get off my back. And, that's just – it's not there. It's so – I don't know. I get it. I get that they want to be excited. It's just always so funny to me.
We talk about this.
Exactly.
It's always so, just don't compare.
It's always so funny to me. We talked about this just before the show started, that anytime they get excited about something, Jake Sanderson signed, and we'll talk about that right away here. Jake Sanderson signed 8 years, great deal, better than Morgan Riley. It's like, okay, you didn't have to take. Okay. Jacob Chikrin, he's better than I don't know whoever, and it's like, okay, just be happy you got Chikrin. You didn't have we talked about this when the Leafs were coming up with this era that they're currently in. We said, we're better than Montreal. Not once did we say we're better than Ottawa. Yay! I know Ottawa was good at that time. They were. That was the end of their little run that they had there. That was a good run. All credit to them. That blew up, and it was not ever like, hey, we're surpassing Ottawa. Nope. That's not where and it always seems to be with the other way around. When it's Ottawa, they always have to try to pull the Leafs down, when right now, and I mean it's early, but consensus is the Leafs are going to win the Atlantic. That's pretty much everybody's prediction right now. I've been looking around. It's the Leafs, and the Ottawa Senators are usually, and they could surprise, they're usually like 5 or 6. So, or 4 maybe, but I don't see a whole lot of Ottawas in the 1s, 2s, or 3s. So Sens fans, let's just call a truce. We're happy for you. You're doing good things. Things are happening, and you're excited, and I get it. But let's just chill on you always having to come after Leafs fans for it for some reason. Just have fun with yourselves.
Well, have fun with it. At the same time, get excited for a healthy Norris this season. Josh Norris playing and being healthy with the Sens, taking a step. Be happy for Batherson taking a step. Timmy Stu continuing to grow and looking like a solid pick. Go ahead and be happy about those things. You don't need to compare apples to apples. It doesn't need to be that way, because right now it looks silly. Now, if the Leafs and Sens play in the playoffs, if that happens, then I guess we all can see what the ifs and nuts will be.
That would actually be a lot of fun. But the other thing too is, that let me just pull this up as I talk about this, because this is kind of important to the next statement that I'm going to make. But that when they play each other early in the year, and I'm just going to pull up the date because I need this. I need this. This is part of the conversation. Oh, I just saw it. My phone had it for me, and September, that's preseason. Brutal. When they beat us in the preseason, Sens fans are just going to go wild about them beating us in the preseason. Game 1 of the preseason. Oh, we're better. Look out. This is our year. When we play them on November 8th, first time the Leafs play the Senators at Toronto, November 8th, in a meaningless whatever day November 8th game is, and they beat us, because they probably will. Let's just be honest. They're probably going to, just because.
Lock that in on DraftKings.
Sens fans are gonna parade down
Yeah.
whatever street it is in Ottawa that they go down on parades. But I mean, it's just like, okay, we'll see you when we're at the top of the standings at the end of the year this year, at least in the Atlantic Division. Like Dylan said, don't win the President's Trophy.
But
I think it was Dylan or Pete. Was that you?
That was Dylan, but I'm with Dylan, man. Don't win that
Don't win the
cursed
President's
trophy. It's yeah,
Nothing but trouble.
Nothing but trouble. But listen, let's talk about a little bit, tiny bit of business. We talked about it for a moment there at the beginning of the show, but they did sign Sanderson to that 8-year deal, and everybody's like, well, why would you do that? You're paying for what you expect a guy to be, and they do expect him to be a solid, probably number 2, number 3 defenseman on their team. I would say number 2, given the money they gave him, and they are paying for what is to be, like we said with Nathan McKinnon. And they've done this with a few guys now. You're paying a guy early, hopefully getting in front of what they'll become. So you're not paying them like the Leafs did for Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews and Willie Nylander, because they had great seasons. And then they had to fork out the Don't Ray Me, when if they got it done a little earlier, it might have been a little cheaper. That's what the Center has done. And that's a shrewd bit of business. Get her done. I just really hope that all these guys come to fruition, because if they do not, then those are anchors of contracts, and for young guys at that you're going to have to try to figure ways around. But so far, the bets they've made have paid off. So, I mean, for Sens fans, they'll be happy about it. We'll see what happens. The back end, to me, and the goaltending will be the thing that undoes this team. If your D can hold up, especially that bottom pairing of, I believe it's Brandstrom and Hamonic, because you obviously don't know what Hammer's going to be. And then if your goaltending can be, if Jonas Korpisalo can be a great goaltender, then you're great. And if Anton Forsberg can come back, be healthy, and show you what he's shown you before, then you have a solid backup as well. And the Sens might be laughing, and they might have reason to laugh at Leaf fans. We shall see. But just for now, Sens fans, enjoy what you have. Move forward into your preseason and into the season and see where your team shakes out. And if you're in the outside looking in come playoff time, it's okay. Your team is young, they're growing.
They missed the Battle of Ontario, James. They missed the good old days of getting their butts whooped in the playoffs every single time, because we're undefeated, baby. Let's go. We'll see you in the postseason.
Pete, you can probably attest to this a little bit, because I lived in Toronto when that series stuff was going on.
It was so
fun. It was wild, because
so
Sens fans would just laugh at you, because they would whoop the Leafs all season long. Absolutely mollywop them every single game. And then the playoffs come around, and the Leafs would turn the tables when it mattered the most, which was so good. And the diss tracks between artists, Adam Sandler making the Ottawa Senators diss song, and then Sens fans had a couple of guys who made songs. It was great.
I heard there was like a Blink-182 remake of All the Leafs Suck, and it's pretty funny. If you can Google that, it's a good listen. It's a funny one.
Oh, it's absolutely awesome. All right, well, let's move on from our provincial rivals. We got a little bit of a script to read here from our friends over at DraftKings. You can see them down at the bottom there. The promo code is THPN. And guys, I know you may know this, but the NFL is here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is giving you a can't-miss offer for Week 1. This week, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Yeah, that's right, $5 on any NFL game. DraftKings is hooking everyone up with game day greatness. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every single game day this September. Check the app to see what you get. Download now and use the code THPM to sign up. New customers can take home $200 in bonus bets instantly just for betting $5. That's code THPN, only on DraftKings Sportsbooks, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net in New York. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for your problem gambling. Call 888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Sorry, Clark and Pete. See
No, I'm good. I'm
DKNG.co
outside of Ontario. I got this.
/football for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. So get over there. Check out DraftKings. Use the promo code THPN. Get yourself some
code,
good bets.
by the way.
And away
Really
we go.
easy to remember. THPN. Super easy. Use it.
Super easy. Let's rock and roll, fellas. Now we'll switch gears from
The best part is about that is me and Dylan did this last episode because James puts the script over so he can't see us doing stuff. So me and Dylan were like, whoa, like we were like reacting to everything he was saying. We were having a great time.
Hey, that's the best way to do it. Get everybody excited, man. Let's go.
Oh yeah.
Let's go.
$200. Use it.
For $5? Come on. 200 for $5, I'll do it all day long. All right, so we'll switch off the provincial rivals. We'll go over to where we need to be. The blue and white, that's right. It's behind Pete. It's in our blood. It's the Maple Leafs. And listen, right now, we talked about this a little bit over the past few episodes. Clarky, Pete, Dylan, even our friend Bernsey. But I'm seeing a lot of hate for Ryan Reaves being on this team. And it's from Leaf fans. And then, of course, we talk about Domi a little bit down the line here too. But a lot of fans saying Domi better bring that tried, tested, and true dad attitude to the team. And that's not the way it's going to be. But anyways, we'll go Reaves first. A lot of people saying this guy's going to play probably 20 games for the Maple Leafs this season. I'm saying probably about 60 for the Maple Leafs.
Wow.
And the reason why I say that is the same thing I've been saying. He's going to go cause problems with the other team's stars and take teams off of their game constantly. So it's going to be against big name teams like a Colorado, like an Edmonton, like a Dallas. He's going to go in there and he's going to stir up crap. He's going to go and pick on a guy, which will get one of their guys off their game. He's not going to fight that guy, but other guys are going to try to get at him and take dumb penalties. That's where the Leafs are going to try to really maximize the value of Ryan Reaves. And Reaves is smart too. He knows what he needs to do, and he knows how far usually he can go. But a lot of people are just like, oh, he's just a dumb knuckle dragger who's not going to do anything for the Leafs. He is. Believe me, he is, and it's going to be sweet to see when someone goes to push over Austin Matthews and he just happens to be on the ice and grabs him a la Dustin Byfuglien and rips that person right down by the horse collar, and then a big scrum ensues, and Burt comes over from the other side. I'm just saying, it's going to be fun. McCabe skates in from the blue line. They got guys who are now ready to do this stuff and just make it ugly, make it gritty, and make the other team do dumb shit like the Leafs used to do. Because the Leafs would be very much in those things and get the retaliation penalty every time because they'd be throwing a little push or a shove, and we've seen it, all the scrums. So if you can draw guys into that kind of crap, that's what Ryan Reaves will do. What do you think, Clarky?
Yeah, I'm looking at his stats right now, and this year he played. He played way more than I thought. Actually,
Going to be a huge fantasy pickup, isn't he?
He played like 73 games this year. 69 the year before. 37 that was the shortened season. 71, 80, pretty much all 82 with Vegas and Pittsburgh split that year. The year before that, 80 with St. Louis, 64, 81. This guy's now. Here's what I will say is that sometimes you see these, call them, the knuckle draggers or whatever, and they're big and like they're in good shape, but they're not like good skaters necessarily.
Revo's a skater.
I've always looked at Ryan Reaves as a guy who can actually skate. Now, is he an effective puck handler? Nah, maybe not. But I've always appreciated the athleticism that Ryan Reaves possesses. I mean, his brother Jordan is a defensive end in the CFL. He has been for I don't even know how long, 6, 7, 8 years. And his dad was one of the best running backs in CFL history, Willard Reaves, back in the 70s, 80s with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Like, they're a very athletic family. If he wasn't playing hockey, he could probably be playing football right now as a defensive end. He's a little bit older now, obviously, but I've always appreciated his skating ability as a big guy. Now, he's 35, 6, however old he is. I think he's 36. So he's clearly on the back half, but I don't think that you give a guy a 3-year commitment. Sorry, this door doesn't like to stay closed. I don't think you give a guy a 3-year commitment at this point in his career who has had a track record of playing almost 70 to 80 games a year for the last like 8 or 9 years, and then sit him for half the season. I think this is year one of what you said, James, kind of a new attitude era of the Leafs. Like we're looking at, yeah, exactly. He's
Give
gonna
me a
be
hell yeah.
he's gonna be our The Rock. He's gonna be Triple H. Like he's that guy. And I think he's like I can't remember who usually says this, but maybe it's Steve Dangle who usually says somebody who's going to drag the other guys on the team into the fight. And it's not necessarily that he's going to go out there and just fight and that's it. He's the type of guy that drags the other guys into that attitude. And he pulls them in and pushes them up and lifts them up. And I think in Ryan Reaves, like, not that they need one, but I could honestly see him being an assistant captain for this team at some point. Like, not that they need one, but he's like the type of guy who I think could like set the tone out there. And maybe he's only going to play 8-9 minutes a night. Like maybe that's the case. But I just think, like you said, James, that his presence out there with the teams he's been with recently, let's go back to St. Louis. He was an important part on that St. Louis team that won the cup. Am I correct in saying that? Or was he gone by the time they won the cup?
I think he was gone by that time.
Okay, so he was gone, but then he went to Pittsburgh, and then he went to Vegas, and he was important parts on all those teams. Even in New York, he maybe wasn't the best fit with the New York Rangers, but then when he got to Minnesota, I feel like he was a pretty good fit there too. And I just think that this is the kind of guy, you don't give a 3-year commitment to a guy, especially at not league min, like 1.3 mil. That was a big conversation piece over the summer. That's not nothing. It's higher than the variable amount currently, I'm pretty sure. So you give the guy that commitment. I think he's going to give you guys the commitment, and this is the type of guy that's in the lineup. You can lock in the 4 RW every night, I think, as Ryan Reaves. And I'm not even at this point, unless he starts proving us wrong and starts, flailing around out there and looking stupid. I don't think I'm upset about that right now. It's an element that this team hasn't had, an effective element that this team hasn't had in a long, long time.
Mm-hmm. You want to flip the script and really piss teams off for a shift, and Pete, I'll let you run in a minute. Imagine throwing out Domi, Bertuzzi, and Reaves just to get under the other team's skin for a shift or two. All three of them can talk. All three of them can talk. All three of them can get under your skin, and that would just drive a team nuts.
And we saw last year, Yarncroke moved up in the lineup and played pretty well with those guys. So you could legitimately throw Nyes and Yarncroke in the top 6 for a couple of shifts and throw those guys out as a third line and just see what happens.
Keith must be licking his chops right now with all these line combinations he can make. But I think one of the important things, too, that Reaves was brought here was for the outside portion of this team. He's going to take the guys out. He's going to get them to gel together. He's going to get rid of any cliques there are, because I know there's a lot of Swedes on the team. I think they do their own thing, and I think Reaves is going to bring everyone together here. He's probably going to pot maybe a few, but I think he's here to defend these guys and to bring them together. So I think it's a good pickup. The contract's a little long, but you can always bury that contract, right? So
and I'll wait. Go ahead, Pete.
No, go ahead, Clark.
Well, I was just going to add, like, the other thing too is that Ryan Reaves, if you look at his stats over his career high is 126 penalty minutes, which for an enforcer, that doesn't seem that high, really. If you think about like a traditional enforcer, they're usually closer to 200 or higher. Especially when you're trying to do puck doku and 200 penalty minutes. Oh man, the amount of times I can't figure out who's gotten 200 penalty minutes on puck doku.
Those ones.
That's a hard one.
Yes.
Like you put guys you would think, and it's like, nope. And it's like, what? That ruined my whole... Anyways, that's another episode too. But this guy is a guy who, yes, he fights, but he's also the guy that nobody else wants to fight. He's that guy. And because he doesn't have that many penalty minutes, because nobody wants to fight him. He could probably have 2-3 fights a night if he wanted, but nobody wants to at this day and age, because there's not many guys that can match him. There just aren't. There's a few. I will give a lot of guys credit. There are some out there still, but he is one of the few remaining guys who is out there and nobody wants a piece of him whatsoever. So you get that guy jumping in scrums, James, like you're saying. You get that guy jawing back and forth on the bench. He can put in 8 minutes a night, but if he's putting in 52 minutes a night on the bench, jawing back and forth, That's more valuable probably than the 8 minutes
Definitely.
on the ice. He's in there chirping guys. He's in there telling them, if you do that again, I'm going to knock your head off. And they haven't had a guy like that since probably Max Domi's father or Darcy Tucker or that era. They haven't had guys out Colton Orr. Maybe you can talk about Fraser McLaren. You can talk about that era of guys. But since then, man, the Leafs have been, from the outside. What do we always get told from other fan bases? We're pushovers. We're soft. We have no pushback. Well, and then you go out and get guys who are the definition of today's day and age pushback, and all of a sudden, oh, well, he's only going to play 8 minutes a night. Yeah, that's the whole idea. That's the point. And they have enough guys who can play 23 and 24 minutes a night that having a guy who can only play 8 isn't a big deal. So I really think that this is a solid fit, and for anybody who thinks this guy's not going to play 85 to 90% of the games, I just think just watch.
Yeah, like I said, I give him 60, maybe 65 games, and that's only because they'll probably cycle somebody else in, or injuries, or whatever, or rest, because he is older.
Yeah, I mean, he's 36. He could get hurt a little bit. I mean, he's in a tough spot, too. You punch a guy wrong today because you can't take a helmet off and you break a knuckle. It's not an easy time to be what he is, but I think, like I said, the 52 minutes on the bench that he's yapping back and forth and doing his job, I think is going to be even just as important as the 8 or 9 minutes on the ice.
The best clip last year, I think they were playing Edmonton. It was Minnesota. And Evander Kane was trying to chirp him for going after McDavid. And he was doing the, who, you? Who, you? Like, he's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Absolutely
I can't wait to watch that.
He's just telling guys, like, you're not going to do anything. Just shut up. Skate away. But a guy that's not going to do a lot of that, a guy that will talk, and he has dusted up a few guys here and there defending teammates, and it's not afraid to scrum it up, but he's no Ty Domi. So, guys, Clark, you say this a lot, and I just want to reiterate it. He's not Ty. And a lot of fans are like, I hope he brings that Ty Domi fight. He's not bringing that. That's why they got Reaves. But he will bring the same thing. He will bring the beaking. He will bring getting under guys' skin, doing little things that piss people off, a la Brad Marchand-esque. Just greasy shit that other guys don't like and probably will take penalties for. So it's those kind of things that'll happen, but he also has wheels. He also has an underrated passing game, and also he can score some goals. So, and he did so on a Chicago team that really had no talent. So not too sad.
And he was a pretty nice piece for Dallas in the playoffs too after they got him. He was. So
and everybody's like, well, why didn't Dallas keep him? Well, it's called this. And when you run out of this, trying to pay your guys like Jason Robertson and Heiskanen and all the other guys they have to pay, guys like him, just like it happens to the Leafs, hello, Hyman, Brown, go down the list, they get squeezed out. Max Domi wanted to play here. Apparently wanted a long-term deal. The Leafs said all we can do right now is this because of cap uncertainty, which is smart business, by the way, because the Leafs always offer, well, we'll deal with that later. Well, now they've done some stuff where they know where they're at. So maybe we do see some extensions January 1st. But Domi's going to come in, guys, for me, and just be that bunting replacement. I really see Domi as a bunting replacement to really take care of what needs to happen. No, Bertuzzi's the next level of bunting to me because bunting wouldn't really engage physically where Bertuzzi will, but also Bertuzzi knows all those other little dirty tricks. Like, look at what he did to the Florida Panthers with the stick thing, right? Breaking it and taking the stick away. Bunting didn't do those things that got under guys' skin. He talked a lot, but he really didn't do the other things, the stick work, the little jabs that you see from like a Marchand or Bertuzzi that we now have. Those things didn't happen with bunting. It was more the talking and the throwing fits and, those kind of things. And I hate to say it, the diving a lot, flopping over. Bertuzzi isn't that. He's more, how do you say it, more technical with his grease. He really applies it. He's got some smarts to it.
James, last episode when we were talking a little bit about, I was talking about Domi quite a bit. I brought up a lot of stuff about Domi last episode, and maybe I'll reiterate a couple things that I think about the guy. But with Bertuzzi, I think that with Bunting, I think last year, he was doing it all by himself. He didn't have anybody else on the team doing it with him. And when you're the only guy and everybody knows that, they pick on you a little bit more. They do a little bit more to you. And with this is the way I was talking about it last episode with Bunting. I think it was Bunting that I talked about this about. But he was, I know he's always been a pesky guy. Like he's been a hardworking player and stuff, but he's never been like a gritty player necessarily. And I think once he got to the league, the NHL, I think he kind of had to develop that. And when guys have to develop that style, I think of Pierre-Luc Dubois. I think I've talked about it on this show several times in the past, but Pierre-Luc Dubois was a scoring, bigger forward growing up. Then he got to the league and he was dubbed a power forward. And I think he had to learn how to be a power forward. And by doing that, he tried to be gritty, but instead, because he didn't know how, it just came off as dirty. And I think Bunting was in a similar way where he didn't know how. He's a hardworking guy. So his way of doing it was just being a hardworking guy. And eventually he would be getting under guys' skin because he's working hard. But he's not necessarily the gritty, the guy that what a Bertuzzi is, Pete, to your point earlier, where Bertuzzi, I think, has a little bit more of that built-in grit to him than what Bunting had to develop. It's more innate in him. It's more instinctual in Bertuzzi than it is in Bunting. And I think Domi has a bit of that as well. Whereas, yes, he's a skilled forward first, I believe. I've always thought that about him. But he does at least have the last name. And I know that we can't say he's Thai. He's not. I've said that lots of times. But he still has the last name. And I think it's instinctually in him to just kind of be a jerk. And the Leafs need more jerks because they've lost to teams with jerks for years now. And we finally have a few on our team. And I'm pretty pumped to see a little bit more jerkiness on the roster.
Jerks.
And again, I said this last episode, Pete, because I know you weren't here, but Domi's not a guy who's going to go out and punch guys in the face. And I don't think he has to be that guy necessarily. I know a lot of people probably want him to be, and he probably will at some point get in a couple of fights here and there. He's not the type of player that shies away necessarily from fights. But he's not the type that's just going to go out and punch guys every single night. But what he will do is he'll put his glove in your face. He'll give you a little face wash. He'll tap you on the back of the ankle in a scrum. He'll give you a little bit of a crotch shot every once in a while just to let you know he's there. Like, he's going to do all that stuff just to, again, let you know that he's there. And I just think the Leafs haven't had that in a while. And now they have, 2, 3 guys, maybe 4 if you count Matthew Nyes. We talked about that. Matthew Nyes maybe has a little bit of that element.
McCabe.
Brian McCabe. Yeah, Jake McCabe. So I think they have a few of those guys now. And I just think it's going to be a whole element that we just haven't seen. And Domi's a big piece of that. But James, like you said, the best part about him is he's not just a jerk. He can actually put up some points. And I think secondary scoring for this team is also really, really important, especially to take a little bit more pressure off those top guys. Because when you take pressure off of them, they actually can perform better because there's not as many eyes on them or hands on them or sticks on them. There's other people who can do the job, which just makes them better as well. So
if you have to deploy your resources further down the lineup for the defending team, it definitely makes it better for the guys on the Maple Leafs. So if you got a third line that can possibly score, just say a Domi, Yarncroke, Robertson, and that line gets rolling for whatever reason, you have to go and throw your second pair out there, your first pair out there to defend against them. It does make them more tired. It does give you more windows of opportunity for your top 2 lines. Speaking of windows of opportunity, the Maple Leafs goaltenders, I know, Clark, you want to touch on this last episode. We got Woll, we got Samsonov, we got Jones, we got some other guys that are young, but I think those 3 goaltenders right off the top there are going to be the guys we focus on. I really liked listening to what Mr. Bradshaw Living, almost said Dubas, Bradshaw Living said about Woll. And same thing with Sheldon Keefe. He kind of echoed it as well, where Woll really will get an opportunity. Obviously, camp will have to play out. But finally, it seems like the Leafs have developed a goaltender that may be the heir apparent to net. But let's not forget Samsonov, who's also in a contract year yet again, and probably will play his arse off and do really well. And finally, we have remember when Curtis McElhaney was here? And he was actually a savior between the pipes for the Maple Leafs for a while.
Backup. He was so good behind the pipes when we needed him in those critical games.
Now we have a Jones guy who's won some games with the Seattle Kraken, the upstart guys on the upswing for their second season, won 29 games, same amount as Samsonov last year.
Unbelievable.
So, and he
The
signed
fact
to
that he
a
won
pretty
29
big deal.
games is wild.
So, and he's got a better team in front of him by a lot of standards, I'd say, than Seattle had. And Seattle still made the playoffs, made some noise, beat Colorado, et cetera, et cetera. But I look at it and say, okay, hey, the Leafs have 3 competent goaltenders that if one goes down, you're okay with the second one. If the second one goes down, you're okay with the third one. So last year, when Samsonov went down, we were all like, okay, what does Wool have? He showed us he can play. But then when you had to get down to possibly Matt Murray or Eric Shalgren or other guys who, was this Jet something who came
Chet
in?
Alexander.
You had these guys that got opportunities and stuff like that, but you were gripping your seat a little bit like when Michael Hutchison used to play for the Maple Leafs. So our third option now is a 29-game winner last year. Our second option is a guy who is on the upswing. Finally, the Leafs have a young goaltender who looks like he may be a brick wall. And then you have Mr. Ilya Samsonov, the Russian machine that never breaks, who's in a contract year, who obviously wants to set his family up very well. And how do you do that? Well, you come to Toronto like most guys do. You play well with all the spotlight on you. Hell, if you win a cup, I bet you he probably gets a $7 million deal somewhere.
Yep.
If you win the cup.
But Clark, opening
Yeah.
who's between the pipes?
Well, it's Ilya Samsonov. I mean, as long as he's healthy, I don't know what his status is. I'm sure he's fine. But one thing that I guess wanted to talk about too with this Leafs goalie group now is I remember for years, especially in Lamoriello's last couple of years and then Dubas's first few years, they didn't draft any goalies. And that was maybe just due to maybe they just didn't like a goalie, or maybe they thought they had a better, time getting a veteran or somebody off free agency or a college free agent or something. But for years, they had no depth whatsoever in net. And for some reason now my internet's not working. I'm having a tough time with the old phone research here tonight. But now that they have the 3 guys that they do have on the major league level, I'm thinking baseball. My dad's watching baseball in the other room.
Go Blue Jays.
On the National Hockey League level. But those 3 guys, that's a great start. But then I even look at their few guys that they got down in the minors. And you got Dennis Hildeby, who's this really tall, interesting Swedish prospect who's in his early 20s. Keith Petruzzelli had a great college career, and he's been doing really well for, I think, the Growlers mostly last year. But he's probably going to get some time with the Marlies this year. And he's a solid, younger goaltender. I think he's 24. And then they got the 2 Russian guys that are over on loan in Russia. One of them is, I think Peksa is also going to be on loan in Russia, if I'm not mistaken.
Well,
It's
no,
just not
he came
listed
back
that way.
He's got
Did he come back?
Marley's pass. Yeah, he's got Marley's pass. Go check out, I believe it's Haley Wickenheiser's Twitter or Instagram. He's
There you
actually
go.
in town, and he's got a blue and white pad set up. So that obviously
Okay.
leads you to believe he might be doing something with the Marlies. And also, we got that Hopi Baker winner guy who was suspended for 6 months in our
Right.
system as well.
Yeah.
So
I think he's on a minor league contract at the moment,
Right.
but
What
still,
was he suspended for?
I think performance enhancing drugs or something like that.
yeah, something like that maybe. But the fact that they got Akhtiamov late in the draft, they got Peksa late in the draft, they got Hildeby late in the draft, and Petruzzelli was a college free agent that they just picked up. They're finally just realizing, I think, in the organization that goalie depth is more important than just filling a hole, especially in the minor leagues. Like, that's a great place to develop those guys, and that's where Joseph Wall comes in, and that's where I'd like to talk about him. And we did already. You did a great job, James. But they had the depth in the major. I did it again, major league level in the National Hockey League to allow him to kind of simmer a little bit. And I wouldn't be fully surprised if to start the year you see Joseph Wall back with the Marlies and you let Martin Jones start the year with the Leafs, just because of the track record Martin Jones has. Obviously, it's a little scary, but he did have 29 wins last year. He gave his team chances to win last year on a Kraken team that's still figuring out who they are. And I just wonder if they won't allow Joseph Wall to go get like 25 starts early in the year down with the Marlies.
One
bring him up.
fly in that ointment, though, he now requires waivers.
Joseph Wall does?
He does.
Okay, never mind then. Take back everything I just said.
I wanted to cut you off on that one before you went too
Thank
far.
you. Yeah. Good call.
It was. I think it was on shout out to our friends over at Locked On Leafs and our buddy David Morsuti. I think they talked about it. He does require waivers to go back down.
Oh, okay.
So that's why a lot of people were saying you're probably going to lose Jones on waivers because he's probably going to be the guy on waivers because you don't want to lose Woll.
Okay, I'll take back what I said, but I'll go back and start over. I think Martin Jones is the type of guy that would clear waivers, though. Like, he's 30, what is he, 35, 36, and he's only on a 1-year deal. So a team taking him on a waiver claim, especially at the beginning of the year, if everybody's shoving everybody down through the waiver claim process all at once, which is what always happens, there's not a whole lot of upside for a team to claim an older guy like that. So you might not see him get claimed, and then he can kind of be your emergency valve, I guess, if something goes on in the upper echelons. But who knows? Like, here's the other thing: Martin Jones and Joseph Woll are also both two of the cheaper players on the roster right now. Not saying that this would happen, but the Leafs don't have a whole lot of cap space to carry extra guys. Could they carry an extra goalie? Probably not, but maybe for a little bit, just as things kind of settle down. Maybe they could, and then you could shove Martin Jones down when the rosters are kind of more clarified, and then maybe teams just don't have a spot for him, so you sneak him down on like a Friday or something like that when teams aren't really paying attention. So like there could be that angle as well, and I know the next topic is going to have to do with kind of that last couple $100,000 of cap space, so maybe I'll hang on for this one, but I think they're going to have to do a delicate dance with the cap space situation. I did the math the other day because I was curious, and I went on Cap Friendly. I started up a new roster for the Leafs. If they just strip down their roster to 20 players like they did at times last year, they are under the cap. They're fine. They don't have to lose anybody. So, James, maybe let's get into the Lafferty thing because I think that's going to kind of lead into what I'm getting at here.
Yeah, well, Sam Lafferty, here's the thing, okay? You go and get a guy on a PTO like Noah Gregor who hits like a mother, can really add another physical, probably a chirpy kind of element, playing with guys like Reaves and Burt and Domi. I'm going to say that's a guy that you probably want on your squad. Sam Lafferty, for what it's worth, I mean, came in. They wanted him to be a penalty killer. They wanted him to use his speed. They wanted him to do all these things. To me, and a lot of people pointed this out, it really did seem like he did not have those tools the Leafs were looking for that you could probably get from somebody else, whether it be a younger guy like Noah Gregor or someone else in your system, Pontus Holmberg, Bobby McMahon, go down the list. You can really plug and play a Sam Lafferty out of your lineup with one of those guys you already have, and it doesn't hurt to lose him. You free up, $1 million he's getting paid. I mean, to me, I think Sam Lafferty is definitely the odd man out. It sucks because we all want to see guys do well. But if you don't fit and it doesn't work, you can't keep trying to drill a square peg into a round hole. You got guys who can fill that, and I really think they're high on Noah Gregor, much like they were last year on Zach Aston Reese, which was Clark's boy, by the way. He really wanted that one to happen. But
I liked it. I'm not mad that he's gone, though.
Hey, man, 10 goals.
Okay.
10 goals.
Yeah.
You know, I thought he was going to be our playoff guy, man. I really thought he was going to be that chipper that chipped in, but he didn't. But anyways, Noah Gregor can really fill the role that Lafferty has, or McMahon, or Pontus Holmberg. Go down the list. You have options that cost you less. And if you get Noah Gregor. Yeah. Well, Alex Steves, to me, I don't know. We'll get into that. We'll look at a prospect pyramid in another episode, but I look at a guy like Noah Gregor. If you're making the list in the top, I think it's 29 or whatever it is in hits, they're going to want that. You're going to want that physical crash and bang, even if he's a plug and play every fourth night kind of guy or a fill-in for an injury. At least you know you have a guy coming in with some jam that could really spark up the lineup. Maybe your, November game or your January dog day game, he comes in and gives you some piss and vinegar, crashes and bangs and sparks up the boys. Those things are fun to have, right? Look at all the fanfare when Bobby McMahon and them came in the lineup and got his first goal, but it got called back. But everybody was so excited. That bench was on fire. And that was a February, let's just get through this month game, right? So if you can inject some energy here and there, that's what you need. Sam Lafferty doesn't do that for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Say I'm wrong, but I just don't think he does.
Pete, you want to go?
I mean, I mean, he's okay. Like, what's his cap hit right now? It's $1 million.
1.15.
1.15, and then who do we have? Like, who takes his spot? Like, what are
Yeah,
like?
you probably go McMahon or Holmberg are probably the top two, and both those guys are like 800K. So
Yeah,
you save about 300K on the replacement.
and so we would have to waive him, and then he'd probably get claimed by someone else, right? So I mean,
I think you definitely get claimed on waivers, but I
yeah,
think there's an option to maybe dump him off in a trade of some kind. But
yeah.
I mean, remember Pete how sought after Sam Lafferty was at the trade deadline last year.
Yes.
Yep.
He was like at the top of everybody's trade boards last
Mhm.
year. So like there's still going to be some interest in him. I think he's tradable. It's just a matter of what you get back. If you get back anything, draft picks, I'm not sure.
Right. I mean, he was okay for us in the last season and in the playoffs, I guess. But it wouldn't hurt my feelings to see him go.
Yeah. So my biggest thing with Lafferty, and James, you kind of mentioned it. He's got that versatility. He's kind of got a little bit of everything. He's kind of got some speed. He can kind of score some goals. But last year when they got him, he was one of the better penalty killers on Chicago. Didn't play a second on the penalty kill for the Leafs. But who's gone though? Alex Kerfoot, and he's gone, and he was a big penalty killer. I wonder if it's not the plan to just put Lafferty right into that PK spot. Now it's still going to be Kampf and Marner out there first. They're still going to be the guys who get a lot of the minutes, but you need more than two penalty killers. I look at Lafferty as a guy who's going to take up a lot of that time. I think Yarncroke's probably going to get a little bit more time. I would love to see William Nylander get a little bit more PK time. I would love to see Austin Matthews get a little bit more PK time, but that's probably not going to happen right away. But they don't have that many. Maybe Max Domi even gets a little bit if they are comfortable with how he plays and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you know what? I look at this lineup, and I posted a picture for you guys on our group chat the other day. I put in a lineup again of just the bare minimum 20 guys with one backup goalie, just very basic, no extra players whatsoever. And it includes Bertuzzi, Matthews, Marner. We can get into lineups another show, but Nyes, Tavares, Nylander, Robertson, Domi with Yarncroke. You mentioned that earlier, James, with Lafferty, Kampf, and Reaves as a fourth line. I think that's a great fourth line. I'm just going to say. And then Riley Brody, McCabe, Klingberg, Giordano, Liljegren. So you don't have an extra defenseman. There's no Timmins in this lineup. I get that. And then Samsonov and Wall. You have $600,000 of cap space with that group of 20. What don't they have? Enough to bring up one more player. Who adds that $300,000 to make it enough to bring up one more player? Sam Lafferty. If you get rid of his 1.15, you can probably bring up McMahon and Holmberg. So
or sign Noah Gregor and have
or
McMahon
sign Noah Gregor and have him there. So like to me,
or have Jones sitting on the bench.
Sure, or just the flexibility to be able to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So Lafferty being moved, considering he didn't have much of a role after they got him last year, considering Tree Living just came in and Lafferty was a Dubas acquisition. There's not a whole lot of glue holding him there. He's kind of a piece that's not nailed down at this time. And if you get rid of him, you can bring up two guys. So I like dumping Lafferty for a 5th round pick or something, or a 4th if you can get a 4th. I don't know, but a 5th or a 6th, and opening up that little bit of flexibility that they kind of need to bring up two guys or sign a Gregor. That's a little bit hard for me to kind of pass up at this point. I think it would be silly not to get rid of him, and I would love to see him fit because he had a great year in Chicago before they got him last year. I think he would work, but when you consider a little bit of flexibility, I think is a little bit more important than a second line penalty kill specialist. That's kind of the end of the story for me. Maybe they'll keep him for a couple weeks. Like I said, they can field a full roster with him. Yep. They just don't have any flexibility. So maybe they go a couple weeks with him. Maybe they try to showcase him a bit, see what happens in a trade. But
what does friend of the show Terry Koshan always say about these cap things? Injuries have a way of figuring things out.
Yeah.
So,
well, another thing too is that for sure. And a guy like Connor Timmins is in the exact same boat as him. They make the same amount of money, basically. I wouldn't be shocked to see Lafferty and Timmins packaged in a trade, especially with some of the defensive depth that they signed in the offseason with Simone Benoit. They brought in Max Lajoie. They brought in one other guy, I can't remember his name, but like they brought in a few guys who could probably replace Timmins. Timmins was a Dubas guy also. So maybe there's a Lafferty Timmins package that could be sent out and you get a 3rd round pick or some 4th round. Like whatever it is, maybe you can get a little bit of a piece back for those 2 guys and you clear up a little bit of cap space in the meantime. Something like that.
Well, let's hope that's what happens, because I want to see a couple of these young guys up here. I want to see a little piss and vinegar, a little bit something different. I mean, maybe there is a plan. Maybe they do utilize him on that second PK unit and really play to his strength. And they really beef him up. Who knows? It's the fun part about September because everybody's excited. You got the Traverse City tournament coming up in I think about 5 days. Then you got training camp, not but 5 days after that. And then you're in the meat and thick of preseason games, and we're rolling by that point. But speaking of rolling, Wednesday night, it'll be me rolling solo with Rod Peterson of the Rod Peterson Show. Clark Monroe knows this gentleman very well. Unfortunately, Pete will not be available. Clark will not be available. And Dylan will not be available. So the Offside family is off doing offside things. It's okay. But I will be here Wednesday night talking to Rod Peterson. Sunday night, we'll have another exciting guest for you, and we'll be having exciting guests as we lead up. But, I mean, the crew right here is pretty darn good. I know you've listened along. If you've been here the entire time, thank you very much. Tip of the cap to you. Make sure you subscribe over on YouTube. Follow Clark Monroe over on Twitter. Follow Pete the Heat on Twitter and on TikTok. I'll make sure to reference their handles in the description of this. But, ladies and gentlemen, as always, this is Offside Hockey Talk, where the Maple Leafs and hockey come to talk.